I think the way they're setting up Runeterra right now is in a good way that these locations like Noxus and Demacia being the obvious like first places we'll probably see in the MMO. I
Yeah.
like the idea right now they're setting up these places to evolve in the future and to
Yeah, they
actually
are.
change. Right? Yeah, that's how I feel just the current like problems that Demacia and Noxus face like internally and externally. To a point where like I think we'll have reasons to go back to them. And I like that a lot for the sake of a new player who was going to come into the RIOT MMO like 4 years after launch, when we're like maybe like one or maybe even two expansions in at that point, depending on how they go about it, if they even have expansions.
Yeah.
Like, I hopefully that new player way late to the game will still be seeing new players as soon as they jump in, and they'll be interacting with the current player base immediately. That's what Pandemonium's doing, and that's what I hope Riot sees out of this. That this is probably the most new player friendly thing the Blizzard team has done, and it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah. So that I completely agree with everything you just said. I think Pandemonium, even though it's called Pandaria Remix, Pandemonium sounds way better. And so
I
that's
agree.
all done great, and that's how you make old content repeatable. But I also don't want to get stuck in the loop of like everything needs to be repeatable. For example, I hadn't played World of Warcraft on basically the whole of Dragonflight. Then I hopped
Yeah, neither have
in
I.
at the newest patch and I got all the way to the end. And what did I do? Like, even without even trying, like, I literally tried to avoid it. But the best way for me to gear up, the best way for me to get gear as fast as possible was to do LFR. And I feel like it robbed me of the experience because I kept pushing and I kept seeing, okay, like here's this fiery dragon and he's been causing all these problems and I understand the story and okay, now I literally want to do the raid. And then I did it on LFR and I feel like it robbed me of the experience of actually doing the raid and fighting to complete it, and getting to that final boss and earning that like last cutscene and completing the expansion. I feel like it robbed me of it because I was just like, okay, now I'm done. And guess what I did? I did what I always do, which is I went into PvP because I felt like at least that always feels fresh.
Yeah, at least you have a chance of dying in PvP.
Yeah,
No,
it
I
robbed
agree.
me.
LFR, I was actually in the same exact situation as you, where I was like getting some idea of what's going on in the story, and then I had to do LFR because that's just like by far the best way to get gear. And I'm not normally the kind of person that will like optimize the fun out of a game for themselves, but in this situation, it's such a good option to take. Like LFR will give you such good gear and such an easy way to catch up really quickly that you'd feel stupid if you don't. Like you feel like you're wasting your time if you're not doing LFR
Yeah,
in the game.
and no one's gonna take you in a normal raid unless your gear's up to a certain level. You have to get a certain item
Yeah.
level, and that's the fastest way to get there. But then by the time
Oh
you get there,
yeah.
you've ran LFR for 2 weeks. You did the whole full raid
It's not.
twice, and you're like, do I care to do it on
Yeah, you've
normal?
already seen the whole
No.
raid. Yeah, literally,
Yeah.
it's exactly how I was. I was like, I've already seen the whole raid multiple times now. I don't know why I would want to do it like a sixth time. Now I could finally do normal. It's like I've already done it like 5 times, dude.
I just feel like
I
there's a
I
and there's
hard
a
agree with
difference.
that. LFR really
Yeah.
just spoils the fun of raiding for me. If I'm jumping into the middle of an expansion, I feel like LFR is borderline required for just good gear to catch up, and it kills the current raid.
Yeah. And some people might say, oh, but look at Mythic Plus. People love Mythic Plus and that's repeatable. That's not the same thing as a raid. Mythic Plus is a
Oh yeah.
small, like, dungeon that's 20 to 30 minutes in length. And that can be repeatable and it's always changing by changing the fixes or whatever. That's almost like a
Yeah.
challenge
And
mode
also,
kind of thing. Like
yeah, I
I
agree. It's more of
love
a challenge mode.
yeah, I like
It's
Torghast, and Torghast was repeatable. I mean, I understand a lot of Torghast was trash, but towards the end,
yeah.
I think they fixed a lot of problems and it was pretty good. So
Okay.
there's certain things that are repeatable, but I don't think a raid should be repeatable because that's like part of the main story. It takes a lot of work. It should take a lot of work and a lot of
I think
coordination. And
yeah.
that's where I'm saying like, okay, that shouldn't be repeatable.
I agree. I think rating is something you work towards. I feel like the rating content, in my opinion, the rating content should be the reward. Being
Yeah.
able to play through the raid is your reward for gearing up. It shouldn't be the gearing up process.
Yes.
it's supposed to be the climax of everything you've done up until that point.
Yes.
Like you have that definitive goal of, I want to kill this big bad. I want to kill the big boss at the end of this raid because he looks cool and he might drop cool stuff.
Yes,
Right,
exactly.
like-
Mythic Plus should be used to get you to the raid. Like that's my I
Yeah.
feel like that should have been my
I think
route.
even PvP to some extent.
Yes. Those, I feel like PvP right now, I should be doing PvP to be able to upgrade my gear and then do Mythic Plus to upgrade my gear, whatever, to get into a raid, to do the raid. That should be what I was doing. Instead, I did LFR. I completed the raid. Now I was like, well, I'm gonna do
Yeah, you
what
just
I
did the
guess
raid.
I'll just do PvP now. Like instead, I should have been like, man, I want to get to 1600 rating so I can upgrade my gear, so I can get better gear in like the weekly chest or whatever. Then I'll be able to get into like a good raid and complete the raid. That should be what I was doing. But now I have no goal at all.
Yeah, I was just gonna get to that actually. It's a very good point. Is that I think that's something that Riot should definitely look at for their MMO. Is if they're gonna do end game content, there needs to be something to aspire to, because I don't think many MMOs have that for end game content. It used to, World of Warcraft, it used to be raiding. Raiding used to only have one difficulty. You were either geared enough for it or you weren't. And that was it. That was what you did at endgame. It's what you aspired to, was the raid.
And then by the time you completed that, another raid would come out. That's even harder.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah, and honestly, if there wasn't a new raid out by then, and if you got like the gear you wanted from the raid, you just stop playing till the next patch comes out. And you get pumped for the next patch because you're satisfied, because you're happy with where you're at in the game.
And destroy people because you got all the gear.
Yeah, literally that. Like, because you accomplished the thing you set out to. Right now, most MMOs endgame content doesn't really have that one thing where it's like, this is what I'm striving for. At least as like, in terms of like outside of gearing, right? Like I personally don't care about gearing up for the sake of gearing up.